Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news. And this week has already started out to be, well, interesting to say the least. Rumors have been running rampant this weekend over the Xbox Sega console in Japan, dubbed the Sega Series X. Of course, this is just a rumor for the moment, but whatever Sega has to announce, it should be coming on June 4th in the latest issue of Famitsu, though do keep in mind that Japan's June 4th is the East June 3rd, so this announcement could come as early as Wednesday, and I will cover that as soon as we do find out exactly what this supposed revolutionary announcement is. The question though, is it just Famitsu hyping up this article, or is it truly revolutionary? I guess we won't have to wait too long to find out. Also, the PlayStation 5 was supposed to happen this Thursday, but Sony had a major announcement today that may not exactly make everybody happy, but truthfully, it is understandable, which we will talk about here in just a bit. As usual though, let's go over some of the quick news first, starting off with the Bioshock collection, which released for the Nintendo Switch a couple days ago. But Bioshock made news on the Xbox One X as well, because out of nowhere, it got a new update. Though an update alone is not all that big of a deal because, for all you know, it could just be fixing a few simple bugs. In this case though, the update is a lot more exciting than that because the Bioshock collection, which includes Bioshock 1, 2, and Infinite, got a major update to improve visuals dramatically. The Bioshock collection is now at a 4K resolution and 60 frames per second on the Xbox One X. Previously it was at 1440p on the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro, so yeah, it got a pretty dramatic overall on the Xbox One X, and if you're looking for a reason to jump into the Bioshock franchise, you definitely have a good one now. If you are a Nintendo fan, of course you can go out and play it on a handheld console, or if you just want the best visual quality that you can get on consoles, then go check it out on the Xbox One X. And hey, if you've never tried this franchise before, I would highly recommend it. These are some of the best first-person shooters to ever be made with an absolutely fascinating world, so go do yourself a favor and check out the Bioshock collection if you're even slightly interested. And speaking of first-person shooters, let's talk about the hit sci-fi franchise Prey. Prey was a fantastic first-person shooter this generation with one of the more interesting enemies in video games, the Mimic, which can quite literally shapeshift to anything in the environment, including objects. This will always have you on edge while playing Prey, as they can pop up out of nowhere, but the reason I'm telling you all this is because you know what would make Prey really interesting? Being a virtual reality game. To go around picking up virtual objects and constantly wonder if you're about ready to stumble across a mimic would be almost bone-chilling. I think that Prey would have a lot of potential as a virtual reality game with its really cool sci-fi world and well-designed enemies. And apparently, there was a UK retailer listing for Prey VR, so this might actually be happening. Now this listing has been taken down since, but that doesn't mean it will stop speculation. Like I said before, Prey is a fantastic first-person shooter, and fans would love to see another installment for the franchise, though releasing the next title in VR might rub some fans the wrong way. Not everybody likes virtual reality, and of course, they still aren't necessarily a mainstream product and can be very expensive. Though if you look at something like Half-Life Alyx, that franchise has a huge following to it, and Half-Life fans have been asking for a new game for like a decade. So when Half-Life Alyx was announced for VR, sure, it did upset a lot of people, but it ended up turning out to be a great game. And truthfully, I can't imagine Alyx working as a traditional game with the same impact. So maybe Prey VR will be something similar to that. It does have a lot of potential as a big VR game, though we just have to hope that they can do it justice in the VR space, and not just some cash grab. I think that is one problem with VR, is that many people view the VR space as being mostly shallow experiences. I myself have played plenty of great VR games, so I don't really agree with that, but hopefully if Prey VR does happen, it's treated as a big AAA VR experience. What do you think though? If Prey VR does actually end up happening, will you be excited, or would you rather just have a traditional Prey game? Let me know in the comments below. Also, Xenoblade Definitive Edition is already impressing with huge sales numbers for its opening weekend in the UK. In fact, it debuted as the #1 game over in the UK, as well as doubled the original launch sales for Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii in 2011. Now that is really impressive for several different reasons. One being that in 2011, the Wii had already been on the market for 5 years, which means it was close to the end of its life cycle, and as we all know, the Nintendo Wii did go on to sell 100 million consoles. So the Switch did double the sales of Xenoblade Chronicles with the remake and has less consoles sold so far. That means that this game, like many Nintendo games, will probably sell a lot more during the Switch's lifetime. That's really impressive, and I also think that this shows you why remakes are such a good thing. On one side of the equation, yes, people rebuy games like this for nostalgia's sake, but they're no longer held back by dated technology. But then on the other side of things, new fans are buying this game as well and playing it for the first time ever, and obviously, the Xenoblade franchise has grown quite a lot since 2011, and it really shows here. So I personally love the fact that so many games are being remade here recently. Now, it did not sell as much as the opening for Xenoblade 2, though I do think that is rather expected. Xenoblade 2 was a completely new game, and not everybody who played the original is going to come back and buy the remake day one. But you know what would be really cool? Honestly, I wouldn't mind if Nintendo went back and did a remaster for Xenoblade X, which is available for the Wii U. That game would not need the same overhaul as Xenoblade Definitive Edition, and they could likely just do a simple remaster. The Wii U was a failure of a console, selling around, I believe it was 14 million consoles, and Xenoblade X was a good game. Unfortunately, just not many people had the Wii U, so they never really got to play it. So I think bringing Xenoblade X back to the Switch would be an alright idea in my opinion. Just a thought though. Either way, big congrats to Nintendo with Xenoblade, the Definitive Edition. Moving on though, Hideo Kojima reportedly had a major project cancelled, and he is not too happy about it. Obviously, that is to be expected that he would not be happy, but during an interview with Live Door, Hideo Kojima did reveal that he had a major project cancelled, though he is working on some smaller games as well, including an episodic game. Now, we did talk about Hideo Kojima a little bit last week, and he said that Death Stranding was a success and that they recouped the development cost. Though recouping the cost alone doesn't necessarily mean the game met expectations. Hideo Kojima is calling Death Stranding a success, but I do wonder what Sony's expectations were for that game, because it's had several pretty big discounts since it first released, which isn't necessarily always a good sign when a game goes on big discounts like a month after release. The reason I'm bringing that up though is that I do wonder who Hideo Kojima's publisher is for their next game. He did say that a major project was cancelled, so who exactly cancelled it, and why? Death Stranding, of course, was very risky and quite a bit different than what many people expect from big AAA games. Though some people absolutely loved it, there were also a lot of people who hated it, and it may have affected how well it sold, and could also hurt Hideo Kojima's goodwill with publishers. Hopefully that's not the case though, but you know, Hideo Kojima may be trying too many risky things with his games. I mean, we really don't know, but hopefully this cancelled project is not his rumored horror game. We know the PT demo was fantastic, and I think a lot of fans would love to see him finally bring that to life in a full-length game. So hopefully that was not the cancelled project, and for that matter, we know that he wanted to enter the movie industry as well, so it could have just been a film-related project. I don't think the interview specifically says it's a game, so who knows? With that said though, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 because we have a few topics here to talk about. First of which is that yes, the PlayStation 5 event has in fact been delayed. It will no longer be happening on June 4th, and I know this will be very frustrating for fans, but Sony did decide to delay this because of everything that is happening in the world right now, and if you're located in the United States in specific, some pretty major things are happening here at the moment, so I do think Sony's decision was the right one. They very specifically said that this decision is because they don't feel it's the right time for a celebration and that they want to stand back and let voices be heard. Honestly, I think that's very reasonable, and hopefully fans' outrage isn't going to be too loud here. I mean, yeah, this sucks. I was excited to see the PlayStation 5 event this week as well, so I understand everybody's disappointment. But let's keep in mind that bigger things are happening right now, so just try to be patient. With that said though, we don't have any official date for when their event will be, but hopefully it will still be sometime in June. Unfortunate, but again, this is very understandable. I will say this though, I do think this will be a major event when it does officially happen, because Sony was even advertising on ESPN, and you don't pay to have an ad on a big channel like that unless there are some major announcements. So even if you have to wait a little bit, just be patient because I think this will be well worth the wait. Moving on though, and for our last topic, Sony is now telling developers starting July 13th, any new title that is being certified for the PlayStation 4 must also work on the PlayStation 5. That means that the PlayStation 5 will likely have several crossplay titles for the first few years of its life cycle from third-party developers, but Sony is making sure that no major game skips out on the PlayStation 5 for whatever reason. I mean, if I'm a developer, I would be developing for next-generation consoles anyways, but you know, there might always be a select few that doesn't for whatever reason, so this is a good update here for Sony. I know some fans are a little hesitant on cross-generation titles, but rest assured, older consoles will not hold back the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. This has been one of those debates that has really been driven by console warriors in specific, but I'm telling you, the way games are developed now, they can easily be scaled up and down to look drastically different by increasing and decreasing things such as lighting, anti-aliasing, shadows, textures, frame rate, resolution, and the list goes on and on. Then they should also be able to have things like ray tracing on next-generation consoles, which just cannot happen on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One. So as long as third-party developers put the time into developing for next-generation consoles, they should look much better than what they would on the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. So just keep that in mind when cross-generation games gets announced because it will absolutely happen. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Peace out.